On today's wrestling news, an ex-AEW employee shoots on the company for mistreatment.
Could the UFC Octagon be planned for NXT Battleground?
MJF calls himself one of the biggest stars in the history of this effing business.
And a New Japan talent opens up about the business relationship with AEW.
I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the news. Let's dive straight into it then.
Yes.
With Kevin Kelly, former AEW commentator, of course, unceremoniously fired a while back, and he's opened up, well, as an experience with the company, what happened from his perspective, and he's not held back. Basically, obviously, he joined AEW. He was a former New Japan announcer back in June of 2023. He was the commentator on Collision, the first episode of Collision, on Saturday night alongside Nigel McGuinness. And then on March 2nd of 2024, he went on social media and accused Ring of Honor announcer Ian Riccaboni of libel and career sabotage. 6 days later, it was announced that he had been fired and Tony Schiavone was going to be taking over on his role. So, first of all, the Ian Riccaboni stuff. He was appearing at this K&S WrestleFest, Kevin Kelly that is, and he had this to say on the Riccaboni stuff. He said, Ian recommended me, so I go away. They know this. He's doing commentary on the G1. I'm gone for 5 weeks. I come back and it's like Ian's hammered me on Discord on this New Japan message board about I did all these different things to him over the years, which I never knew. I had no clue. And then to top it all off, he accuses me of being some QAnon conspiracy theorist for supporting a movie that was against child trafficking. That part bothers me the part that bothers me so much is that I thought we were friends, and if he would have called me, we could have talked about it. But interestingly enough, on his AEW departure, he had this to say. Of course I have ill feelings towards AEW for how things ended. I wouldn't treat my worst enemy like that. Mike Mansouri told me I was going to be let go, the executive producer, the new VP of Human Resources, who I'd never met and spoken to ever before. I knocked the company on Twitter, vented on a voicemail to the HR lady that I'd been working with. I brought up this whole thing with Ian Riccaboni and they said, yeah, good, thanks for bringing this up. I said, what's going to happen? What's the process? They said, well, we'll discuss it and we'll let you know. They apparently got the disciplinary group together and made a decision. He said, I asked, what was the decision? They said, we can't tell you that because it's private. He said, wait a minute, I was the one who was the victim here. I need to know what happened so I could put this bed in my mind. Well, we just can't tell you, was their response. Okay, he said, this is very upsetting for me. You have to understand this. Nah, we don't understand and we don't care, is what Kevin Kelly claims that was their response effectively. So whatever, they'll get theirs. Very messy, this Hamflet.
Yeah, look, Kevin Kelly has gone into such detail there. We often say this, like, I sense that he is speaking his truth on this. Obviously, there are two sides to every story. Sometimes there's more, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And in this case, this is absolutely Kevin Kelly's side, but the level of detail and kind of like granular information he's offering suggests that there's like a version of the truth can probably be found within this quote, but he's making no secret about how bitter the emotions are and how he feels about it. And obviously with that, as many people have experienced in jobs and whatnot, comes that sense of maybe, I don't know, like having that inflated anger within you when you're speaking of it. He's not shying away from that. It affects
his mental health as well.
Yeah, that's it. He goes into more detail. It's a really good, whether or not you sort of agree with like Kevin Kelly or you listen to that quote and more that he talks about, it's kind of worth reading anyway and forming your own opinion on it. It's sad to see a relationship with Ian Riccaboni fall away as part of this, having worked together in Ring of Honor, and as Kelly suggests, Riccaboni having something to do with Kelly getting in. From a viewer's point of view, on screen, the chemistry never quite felt right between Kevin Kelly and AEW. Sometimes these things just don't click. But to think of any version of this going on behind the scenes, it's just, it doesn't make for very nice reading or listening, does it?
Yeah, I mean, no one wants to lose their job, but you'd like to think if you lost it, at least according to what he's saying here, you lose it on merit. They just go, you know what?
Yeah.
We don't like the way you're doing it, or we want to use this person or whatever. You don't want it, at least from his perspective, to seem like the reason I got fired is either someone's plotted against me and spread all this stuff and then they fired me as a result of that, or he's put that stuff out there, I've reacted, and that reaction has caused me to get fired. But yeah, a real shame like this, like you say, because I like everyone involved.
Yeah. I wonder if now, because the comments are so strong, we can expect any sort of response from Riccaboni or maybe somebody within AEW about the process, because he's making quite loud criticisms about the HR process, the disciplinary panel, which we heard about obviously when all the stuff was going on with CM Punk last summer. So we know there's like a panel or something exists as part of this. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any follow-up off the back of these comments. He's not hid anything away, has he? So I don't know how to do this other than to switch gears.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted on any developments with this one.
To NXT, which feels like the land of milk and honey compared to the picture that Kevin Kelly's painting there. But they're in Las Vegas this weekend. If you're in Las Vegas this weekend, why not treat yourself to a stay over at the beautiful Oyo Hotel and Casino, Las Vegas, Nevada. It's got a perfect location with the strip right there. You've got a nice view of the MGM, and of course you've got $2 beers and $1 blackjack. What more could you want?
And they're not paying us for that. Not yet, at least.
Not yet. We would like to use your function space. Get in touch. Follow me at Michael Hamflett on Twitter. Let's DM.
I genuinely thought for a split second you were going to say, if you're in Las Vegas this weekend, I hate you because we're jealous of them.
I do as well, because I won't be going to the UFC Apex for NXT's big show. This is really unprofessional. I should have it in my notes. I've forgotten the name of the show.
I know.
Oh, thank God.
This Sunday, it's NXT Battleground. You're grounded! Battlegrounded, but ma'am, you're a winner. Ding, 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 ding. Shout out to Andrew Pollard for that one.
Yes, indeed.
I've inceptioned in now that you almost wrote NXT Battleground in a news story earlier.
And before we veer off from that, shout out to Andrew Pollard for yet another awesome interview. Dropping with Santana. Of course, he did the one recently with Ricky Starks. There's another one coming to the What Culture Wrestling YouTube channel. Santana goes into detail about his thoughts on the feud with Ortiz. Gets to the nub of like where exactly that was positioned and his sort of
moved around.
Yeah, like I won't sort of spoil some of the content, but Pollard was giving me the scoops this morning. The full interview we're dropping soon. As usual, Pollard, a must watch on the channel. I
have to say, I really am excited to see that. I think that's going to be the second best interview we're going to put out in the next few days, because I interviewed Joe Hendry, baby, and that's going to be going out very soon. Is he going to be at Clash at the Castle? I asked him all about his chart success as well. That's coming out very soon. Great to chat to him, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. But anyway, sorry, NXT Battleground.
Your Grounded Battleground in Birmingham is obviously going to feature an NXT Underground match between Shayna Baszler and Lola Vice as part of the event taking place, as we said, at the UFC Apex. Speculation, not just from geeks like us on a podcast, but from a lot of people in and out of TKO were wondering if the existing octagon that is in place at the Apex was going to be used as part of the Baszler-Lola Vice match. Their MMA background and influences has been key to this story along the way. But according to Fightful Select, the answer to that right now is no. From them, they've said, while the UFC Octagon was pitched for use this weekend, we were told that this would cause logistical issues by those we spoke to in production and unlikely to occur due to these issues. But they did add that those we spoke to in NXT at this week's show expect a heavy UFC presence at the Apex this weekend. So maybe... while the Octagon itself won't feature, like you're going to see the UFC branding everywhere. It's on the Battleground poster.
They've done a tracking shot from the entrance, haven't they? A few times on telly.
I've been fascinated to see how this looks, because obviously it exists as somewhat of a kind of performance centre / proving ground for UFC fighters as it is. So how that'll like play into the vibe of NXT is going to be fascinating to look at. But it's not just TNA, I guess, in terms of three initial organisations that NXT seems to be folding into things this weekend. And look, we've expected this for a while since the TKO match.
I'm interested to see how they do this, because usually, obviously, when they do a Battleground match, that's at a TV taping, then they have to take the ring apart. They have to take the sides off the ring. You saw that with Natty had a match, didn't she?
They're kind of it's a blood sport meets underground hybrid, isn't it?
So that's a hell of a quick turnaround on PLE for them to do that. If they are just going to keep using the ring that they're using for the rest of the show, it makes sense to use the Octagon, especially with two former MMA fighters.
Or opens the show, and then we have Brooks Jensen walking the strip, like shouting the odds about NXT and just like getting beers at all the various casinos.
Works for me.
While they put the ropes on.
I'm really excited about this show. I think there's going to be some sensational matches on there. Obviously, Ethan Page is going to be fighting Trick Williams.
I'd love to listen to a long form preview of it.
Well, we're going to be doing one later on today, mate. Don't you worry. And of course, TNA's Jordan Grace, the Knockouts champion, is challenging Roxanne Perez for NXT Women's Championship. We saw the likes of Thiago Alves and Josh Barnett and a few others giving their thoughts on the Baszler-Lola Vice match. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more UFC people. This might be the gateway that you use to get more UFC people on telly. It could just be a way for Shayna to maybe win the match through her UFC connections or whatever. I'm just hoping we get some Derek Lewis, baby. I love Derek Lewis, and I think Dana's hinted at the fact he could make the leap to WWE. And if you haven't heard Derek Lewis talk, search out some stuff of his on YouTube. It's not by the book, let's say.
Hey, I want to see him cut promos on NXT.
My balls was hard.
I want to see him meet the family.
Yes. Let's talk about another thing that I love. Maxwell Jacob Friedman, my best friend. Obviously, I knew all about the things he's about to say. I know everything because I'm his best friend. But He was chatting to Sports Illustrated and he's made quite the claim. I don't disagree with him, obviously, but I'm intrigued to know if you do. He said when Triple H is doing an interview on one of those big sports shows, whose name were they cheering in the background? My name, not my name, MJF's name.
Yeah.
I'm not just the biggest
company. Will Bourne.
I'm not just the biggest star in AEW, I'm one of the biggest stars in the history of the effing business. Right now, it's hard to disagree.
Yeah, if you watched last night's Dynamite, he cut a promo kind of alluding to the same thing again, but at the expense of the AEW roster.
Set up about 10 feuds.
He
is a bit like Triple H.
Yeah, in many ways. We'll be covering that in long form, myself and Sidgwick, on the Dynamite Review later on the What Culture Wrestling podcast channel. But yeah, this feels like MJF's MO since making his return. He's got some... what he believes to be false narratives from his last run that he wants to address. He's got some things he wants to lay out about his future. He said this was going to be, like when he returned to Double or Nothing, it's all going to be hatred all the way from here. And I guess that includes just putting yourself over absolutely everybody across the industry. He's been missed. For me, I hear a quote like this and I read an interview like this and look, who knows how the next several months in AEW are going to turn out, but already I am just so glad to have him back in the space.
Feel stuff when he's around. I haven't not felt stuff. I've felt less for AEW, but I still love Swerve, Ospreay, Mercedes, Moné. That's good. Just MJF's obviously my favourite, and I'm just really glad he's back.
Yeah, I think we all are, and I think as well, like you say about setting up the stuff over the summer, immediately, like this is going to start getting backed up with these massive matches across massive shows. So it'd be nice to get him back in the ring as well.
Yeah, and it'd be a shame for Bryan Danielson not to win the Owen Hart because MJF's going to win it.
We'll stick with AEW, shall we? I love Bryan Danielson. What about him?
Yeah, it's best.
Bring out the worst of me. We'll stick with AEW and their relationships with other companies. In this case, New Japan Pro Wrestling. The Great Okan, who of course will feature for New Japan on Dominion this weekend against Yui Uemura, was speaking on Twitter about the, ahead of Forbidden Door, I guess, the ongoing business relationship between two sides. And he was quite forthright, to be honest. He said, quote, "I expressed my personal opinion on strengthening the relationship with AEW. To be honest, I think the problem with this relationship is that New Japan doesn't have the financial resources." Goes on to speak about Aussie Open, of course, his stablemate in United Empire. With now AEW International Champion Will Ospreay. He says, "I don't know if Aussie Open went to AEW because New Japan didn't or couldn't sign them, but if they had financial means, they probably would have done so. Before they went to AEW, they were talented enough to become the IWGP Tag Champions, so it would be weird not to sign the contract." So yeah, I guess, he's talking specifically about Aussie Open here, and I guess about the two sides in general, but yeah, Forbidden Door this year feels stranger in the fact that you're almost certain to have Will Ospreay and Kazuchika Okada, for example, on the card, and yet you will have them as AEW contracted stars. 6 to 8 months?
They've been cleared out of it, New Japan, haven't they?
6 to 8 months ago, this Swerve Ospreay match would have been the traditional Forbidden Door, one versus the other, not so much anymore. So, Great Okan there, now, going back sort of 7-8 years, I think, since he returned from excursion, so very much embedded within New Japan as one of their key regulars. But it does sort of feel like they might sort of suffer on that side of things for Forbidden Door this year.
I think it's a fair point to make for them and for various other wrestling companies. At the end of the day, right now, if there's a new indie superstar that comes up that people want to sign, it is just a toss-up between WWE and AEW unless they're not really interested because they've just got the financial clout to outbid your New Japans, your TNAs, your MLWs, all of them easily. So I do feel a little bit sorry for them, and I do think that balance needs to be changed somewhat, not just with regards to AEW taking New Japan talent, I think just generally, because otherwise you have that danger of everyone gets housed in one of those two companies and you don't have the chance to blossom like Ospreay, for example.
Well, look at the landscape right now, though. John Moxley, the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, is an AEW wrestler, really, and that's creating all that sort of controversy. Hiroshi Tanahashi's, we talked about this in the podcast the other day, but President Tanahashi's top 10, we're really sorry, we're going to make it better. Sort of sort of the things he's dealing out. I think there's this move to sort of try and help New Japan find the credibility in the West that it had several years ago, but I think it could be a long road back.
Right, let's get to your Twitter questions at What Culture WWE, of course, on X. If you want to get in touch with us, first question today comes from Aaron Hardy. Thank you for the question, Aaron, who says, "Hey legends, I'm looking for advice. I haven't managed to keep up with AEW since October, but I want to get back in and have largely avoided storylines. Should I try and catch up or just jump straight in? Is it still good?"
Jump straight in now would be the answer to the first question. There have been things you've missed, but AEW moves at such a pace that there will always be things you miss even if you miss a week. You find AEW, I think, in a strange position. The Forbidden Door build, I think the Forbidden Door card is going to be great, but this is not the New Japan AEW crossover you may remember. It is instead just a good-looking pay-per-view. But I have faith in the run-up to All In at Wembley this year. The Owen Hart Cup is going to be for the number one contender to the world title. In Swerve versus Ospreay, they have their current hottest star versus the one man who claims, and has a good consensus claim, to be the best wrestler in the world. So that feels like the right title program. Skip Chris Jericho at all costs. The women's division's in great health.
Yeah.
The Young Bucks are tremendous tag champions, even if the division needs work. So I think the Elite, I think you're going to enjoy this version of the Elite. Everything you might have missed are only things that are going to feed into the stuff you're about to watch.
Yeah, there's a power struggle at the top. If you need to catch up on that, just watch Tony Khan take a bump from Jack Perry.
Oh God, yeah, please go back and watch that. Don't miss
well
that.
worth a watch.
That's the fantasy.
But yeah, in terms of
Sting, watch Revolution. Watch Revolution's main event for Sting's retirement as well.
Yeah, but I think you wouldn't be too confused watching now, other than, former best friends now fighting each other.
Yeah.
Outside of that, because we're on the early stages of the road to Forbidden Door, and because it has that element of this star from AEW is fighting this star from New Japan, Mina Shirakawa, for example. No, she's not New Japan, but you know what I mean. Then I think you'll be fine picking it up from there. But yeah, we've all been, well, you haven't. We've all been there where you've dipped out of wrestling, come back in and go, what's going on? You'll be back up to speed in no time.
Yeah.
Right, second question today comes from Mark Brightman, who says, good morning, most esteemed gentlemen. Well, thank you, Mark. Considering the insane rash of injuries at both the NXT and main roster levels of WWE right now, do we think this has leaned into them working so heavily with TNA?
I think that's a reasonable question. I don't think that's necessarily the primary driver behind
It's not the kid list, is it?
No,
that's Jay White.
It's not the kid list. But they'll probably see the benefit if the injuries continue to pile up. The ACL problem in NXT is a weird one. When we comment on this, which I don't think we do unreasonably, a bunch of people shout at us for not understanding how athletics work and how common these injuries are and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to stay away from that for now. But WWE, I think, know... they know that the talent that are available to them, the main roster crop they've got at the moment, are working not the lightest schedule, but one of the more safer schedules in industry history. So I think they're still probably surprised when the big injuries come up. Something like Punk at the Rumble would have been a bit of a nightmare scenario for them, regardless of how well Punk has styled it out and how awesome the Drew stuff's been. Now, whatever the plan was, that can't have been ideal. You got a Seth Rollins that probably worked through injuries for months on end. I feel like at the main roster they've got the house in order, less so in NXT, which is probably why the TNA thing will help.
Yeah, I don't think that was the justification behind it. I think this has been in the works for a long old time, and it wasn't just let's fill the gaps by people getting injured. And certainly the injury situation isn't as bad as, was it Mania 32? Where everyone was out, Shane came back and all that because he kind of had to. And he did, to be fair, shift a few tickets. But yeah, I also don't think that they're harmed by the fact that if they do have a rash of injuries, whether it be in NXT or the main roster, they can just go, thanks Josh Alexander, thanks Chris Bay, thanks Tasha Steeles, I hope the relationship goes both ways. I hope more people from WWE, whether it be NXT or main roster, kind of preferably, make that leap over to TNA for their upcoming, against all odds, is next weekend. I think your Slammiversary on the but I don't think they were, that bothered by the fact that, guess we'll have to use Jordan Grace for this weekend. She's amazing.
As far as standings go, it's that proper wrestling, replace it with something as or even more exciting, isn't it? So they've done well there.
Sticking with the TNA-NXT relationship, our final question comes from Joshua Beach, who says, gentlemen, TNA in NXT is exciting, but what if this is just testing the waters? What do you think the chances are of a War Games invasion happening on the main roster? Thanks for entertaining me each morning while I've healed from my broken back since January.
Oh my God, get well soon, Josh. Good luck, Joshua. I don't know which one you prefer. My son seems to like both at the moment. Not Charlie, Joshua. I think you're onto something. I think I sense a bigger picture thing going with this TNA NXT thing, where I could say, I don't know about an entire invasion, but I could see a stable of wrestlers from one side or the other trying to lead one. Josh Briggs right now just saying I'm going to make an impact, and Jordan Grace having the red carpet open for rolled out for her, says that the relationship is very cordial and that wrestlers going both ways, just a nice opportunity for all the wrestlers. But I could see our group wanting to sort of take over. You could easily see the No Quarter Catch crew invading an episode of TNA Impact, for example.
Yeah.
And just wanting to dominate because they feel like they've had the piss taken out of them on their own show. Something like that, I don't know. Similarly, there are a bunch of wrestlers we've all fantasy booked 20 at this point that have got history in TNA that you would want to see make that jump back. There'll be several TNA wrestlers that would probably love the opportunity to arrive as a group. The problem with that, and this is historically the case in pro wrestling, is that whatever their individual star power is diminished by the fact that they are part of a group. It's sometimes, Jordan Grace, if she was one of 4, like you divide that star power in 4, where she's just arrived, feels like a bolt out of the blue, it's great stuff. So you have to be careful doing it the other way, but I could certainly see the NXT talents stepping over and like, you want the family, don't you?
I mean, I want the family everywhere.
To knock on.
Yeah. Tony Diaz, sorry Moose, world champion. But,
imagine Von Wagner's former manager.
I think his name's Robert Stone.
Embracing his old life as Robbie E for one night, getting the Jersey Shore Club back.
Opens his locker and there's just a massive vat of hair gel. Wait a second.
I remember that guy.
I think wrestling fans shudder whenever the word invasion is said, because we've had our fingers burnt with this on several occasions. And I think generally, if you're going to ask me what I think War Games is going to be right now for later on in the year, it's probably going to be a bloodline thing.
I'd hope so.
And it'd be awesome. But if plans change, if they go in a completely different direction, I would really like, and I hope that they'd be booked better with the new management in WWE, that they wouldn't just be like, well, you're not from here, so you're going to lose every single match.
Yeah.
Like a mega team taking on, you don't have to do, and I know they've just done this, they've just done Team AEW. You don't have to necessarily do Team WWE versus Team TNA, but like Josh Alexander, Moose, Mike Bailey, someone I just always bang the gavel for. I really, really like Mike Bailey. And then, like you say, like Mustafa Ali going, remember me?
Yeah.
I would kick ass against it. You could pick almost anyone, but I'd always put Sami Zayn in there. But representatives of WWE to take them on in a match where you need stips, you need like the winning team all get title shots of whatever caliber they want or whatever.
But it doesn't need to be a long-standing thing after, just a one match.
I like
thing.
that. I like that pitch though. And get well, Joshua. That's rough times we're going through. And happy to provide the entertainment as always.
Back.
Yeah, get well soon. Right, let us know your thoughts on that and everything we discussed in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe, and while you're at it, why not check out this video right here? We'll see you soon.